To this day, video game adaptations of anime have remained a mixed bag. Between the ceaseless arrivals and closures of free-to-play nightmares to a seemingly endless recycling of 3D arena fighters, your favorite IPs receiving favorable care is always a coin toss. So, when these adaptations try to go against the trends, it can be refreshing and potentially even welcoming. Developer Gust, primarily known for the Atelier franchise, surprisingly embraced this approach in 2020 with the turn-based RPG of the popular manga and anime series by Hiro Mashima, Fairy Tail. Partially due to the overt and shallow gameplay repetition, the title wasn't exactly a critical success. Still, it was a respectable enough endeavor that genuinely put fans into the world of Fairy Tail and in the shoes of the titular guild members. Subsequently, the announcement of a sequel wasn't too shocking, yet it prompted the question of whether it would simply be more of the same or try to shake things up. The answer is a little bit of both. Fairy Tail 2's story adapts the initial climax of the original manga, the Alvarez arc. Personally, I had stopped watching the Fairy Tail anime around a decade or so ago when it underwent its initial hiatus after the Grand Magic Games arc, making the first Fairy Tail game an ideal entry point. Despite the clearly rushed pacing, the general message and events of the narrative come across, and the execution that you saw in Fairy Tail is about the same you'll see in Fairy Tail 2. The Alvarez Empire arc comprises several compelling ideas and dynamics with a genuinely threatening assortment of villains. The returning Zeref takes the helm of being the Empire's leader, boasting a justifiable motivation that goes off the rails quickly. I could elucidate plenty of background and context, yet the turnout here doesn't justify it. I was pretty entertained, but regardless of whether this is an accurate portrayal of the manga or anime storytelling, the latter half of this arc's representation is really rushed to an easily noticeable extent. Various conflicts that could have been fleshed out much more, such as a particular plight involving Natsu and Urza, are either glossed over or given the bare minimum amount of screen time. It's a real shame since the concepts of these plot elements could have been so much more. It's comprehensible, sure, yet it undeniably feels like more of a highlight reel than it should, made worse by how the scale of what the arc comprises. On the other hand, Fairy Tail 2 somewhat compensates for the collective shortcomings with character bonding events and an original epilogue. The former umbrella occurs at campfires throughout the world, and these events are unlocked through gameplay strides. Generally speaking, they do a far better job at highlighting the cast than the central story does. Between slice-of-life going-ons and occasional deep dives into character perspectives regarding main story events, I often looked forward to these developments much more than the standard progression. The epilogue is a strange mixed bag. For the most part, it's a bunch of disjointed quests that come across as an anime filler, with the messy, scrapped-together final super boss. At the very least, the character interactions are rather entertaining if you're an established fan, but they don't go as far as they could. So if we're only considering the story, Fairy Tail 2 does a marginally better job than the previous title, making it seem not worthwhile, but the gameplay systems have seen significant shakeups, proving an inherently different experience. The first Fairy Tail game is a turn-based RPG, and Fairy Tail 2 has been advertised as an action RPG, but that's not entirely accurate. Combat is now akin to active time battles from Final Fantasy, with a timer in the UI communicating the rate at which characters can attack. No, movement isn't involved, though you can actively swap between combatants on the fly, including those in reserves. At its core, the combat is an intuitive system rooted in familiar cycles of depleting enemies' break gauges and associating elements with weaknesses to get rid of enemies quicker. Simply put, each character has a slew of unique attacks characterized by affinities and skill specializations to eliminate break gauges or raw health. Considering how swift and seamless the battle transitions are, it's easy to get into an addictive groove that remains captivating for the entire game's duration. Additionally, if you play on the harder difficulties, encounters can become rather tricky, as the actual length of the attack animations do matter to get the most out of your ATB gauges. Fairy Tail 2 has also seen a massive expansion in its exploration, contrasting the linearity of the previous title. Several large-scale open area-esque zones are now present with countless treasures and collectibles. Even lore notes that make this a dream come true for fans. Further navigation is rarely ever taxing thanks to a handy dash maneuver and an ability to automatically defeat significantly weaker foes on the map with field attacks. The exploration is continually refreshing as well, due to the Metroidvania-style component where new field attack types are unlocked through story progression, opening new potential paths. Above all else, Fairy Tail 2 does a fantastic job of emphasizing strides of player progression. The rewards from navigation directly impact the acquisition of new equipment and character bonding episodes, creating a very fulfilling cycle when playing. Fairy Tail 2 may be a flawed experience in that its storytelling is marred by horrid pacing and missed opportunities. Still, the character events and gameplay are worthwhile and addictive for longtime fans. It's a decently involved sequel that made me more than invested in this familiar cast than ever before. This just has me hoping for a 100 Years Quest follow-up where more care is put into the narrative. Noisy Pixel is giving Fairy Tail 2 a 7 out of 10. Thanks for watching. This video is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon. Noisy Pixel is run by a group of gamers providing independent gaming coverage through news, reviews, previews, and more. Check out our Patreon to help support our continued growth and subscribe to keep up with all our future content.
Noisy Pixel.